On this special edition of Abandoned Cape Breton, I dig into one of the darkest days in Nova Scotia's coal mining history. On June 11th, 1925, months into a bitter strike and after being pushed to desperation, when their primary access to food, water, electricity had been cut off, coal miners in Cape Breton marched to the company's power facilities outside near Waterford to restore power and water to their homes. The dramatic moment reached a breaking point with the shooting of several miners by company police that morning at the Waterford Lake power plant. 99 years later, although the rage from that day has faded, it is not forgotten. The landscape is changed, but the legend remains. There are no parades or speeches in the public square, but today I walk along the picket line where one miner would make his final stand and meet his untimely end. A death that added fire to the labor movement in Canada. In this episode, I tell the story of how the death of one man became a rallying cry for labor unrest and perseverance in Nova Scotia. This is the life and death of William Davis. As early as the 1830s, there were riots in the Pictou coalfields, and in 1864, provincial troops were brought into Sydney mines to calm troubles there. As the mining companies became larger and more powerful in the late 1800s and early 1900s, so too did the stranglehold they exerted over their communities, and the misery they inflicted on their employees. During these times, miners were paid largely under a truck system. Truck systems often existed in tandem with company towns, which usually contained company stores. Wages were not paid only in conventional money, but also in the form of payment in kind, such as company housing and credit in the company stores. Essentially, a company could deny basic necessities, starve out, or evict union members and their families. Prior to the strike of 25, District 26 United Mine Workers of America, the local union for Cape Breton and Pictou coal miners, had refused to name a representative to a government-appointed conciliation board. In the coal miners' experience, such boards largely favored the mining company. The company in this case, BESCO, the British Empire Steel Corporation, a Montreal-based holding company, had taken control of almost all of the province's coal and steel companies by 1921. During 4 of the previous general work stoppages, the government had sent armed provincial troops to Cape Breton at the company's request to maintain the peace. This was a euphemism for intimidating workers and escorting scab labor across the picket lines. On more than one occasion, their mere presence served to reinforce the efforts of the BESCO company police in evicting the striking miners and their families from the company-owned houses. In 1925, the members of District 26 were earning $3.70 per day. For the last 24 months, the pits were open only part-time, and the miners had also weathered strikes in each of the previous 3 years. When the latest contract expired on January 15th of that year, BESCO refused to deal with the union and demanded a 10% wage cut on the new agreement. BESCO's proposal was rejected by the union, with the result that yet another strike was called. With the miners manning the picket lines, a small workforce was left to maintain the mines and keep them from flooding. On March 10th, with the strike 4 days old, company vice president and general manager J.E. McClurg was asked by a reporter if he did not view the strike as like a game of poker. "Game of poker, nothing," McClurg responded. "We hold the cards. Things are getting better every day they stay out. Let them stay out 2 months or 6 months, it matters not. Eventually they will come crawling to us. They can't stand the Gaff." When asked what he meant by the Gaff, he answered, "Privation and attendant hunger." McClurg's statement revealed the company's strategy for dealing with the strike. They would starve the men back to the pits, and thereby show them that their union was helpless to protect them. BESCO was determined to drive the union out of the coal industry. Despite the economic hardship, which saw families come to the brink of starvation by June, the miners' resolve was strong. When BESCO refused arbitration, the union adopted a policy of 100% picketing. This included shutting down operations at the pumping station and power plant at Waterford Lake, which would prevent the company from resuming operations and flood the mines. BESCO gathered all its available police and late on the 10th escorted 30 company men to restart the plant and pumps. After the company regained control of the power station the next morning, the company police returned to the town, boasting of their success in a provocative patrol. An action that led to a small clash with a group of miners. It was followed by an open-air meeting attended by one William Davis. William Bill Davis was born on June 3, 1887, in Gloucestershire, England, to Thomas Davis and Anices Duffley. Thomas and family immigrated to Nova Scotia sometime in 1888 or 1889, when William was just 1. Thomas took up work in the mines at Spring Hill, Nova Scotia, and William's older brother, then 14 years old, was killed in the 1891 explosion there. Like his brother, small but strong, Davis was a coal miner from a young age, working in the Spring Hill mine. Davis began working for the Dominion Coal Company in 1905 at various collieries in the Sydney coalfield in Cape Breton, eventually graduating to become a pump man and a road maker, lastly working as a pump man at the number 12 colliery in New Waterford. In 1907, at age 21, he married Myrtle McPherson, 2 years his junior. Although she was born in Spring Hill, she was living with her family in what is now Donkin, and they married there at Dominion number 6. By 1925, they were raising a family of 9 children. Myrtle was carrying a 10th child due in September of 1925. Incensed by the audacity of the company police that morning, coal miners from New Waterford and surrounding towns, estimated from somewhere between 700 to 3,000 people, gathered at a local baseball field. A decision was made to retake the plant. The crowd arrived at the site around 11 a.m. Before a word was spoken, the company police either charged or the horses panicked. Neither the animals nor the police were trained. With nightsticks and revolvers shooting wildly, policemen bore down on the miners, including a 5'3", 150-pound William Davis. As the 38-year-old coal miner and union man struggled to turn the horse away, a bullet ripped through his heart. He was dead within minutes. In the melee, several policemen were unhorsed and over 300 shots were fired. Miners Gilbert Watson was shot through the stomach. Jack McQuarrie received a bullet in the groin. Michael O'Hanley had been trampled by the horses. One man had his back broken, another was shot in the arm, while many others had received lesser injuries. Within 10 minutes, the police were in full retreat, leaving behind many wounded. After news of Davis's death had reached the surrounding coal communities, the looting and pillaging of the company stores began. After Davis was shot, the miners overpowered and captured most of the company police, while others had escaped into the woods. William Davis's daughter later recalled witnessing several miners near beating to death one of the other policemen who had initially escaped from the scene of the battle. A group of miners swarmed into the power station, destroying equipment and shutting off pumps and generators. That afternoon, on Plummer Avenue, alongside what is now Davis Square, nearly 30 BESCO police were frog-marched up the street towards the town jail. As they marched, they all suffered the jeers of the men and women, miners and their wives and children who had gathered to watch the procession. These were the lucky ones. Earlier that morning, some BESCO police had been beaten so badly they required hospitalization, and only the intervention of clergy had saved their lives. As Danny Dancer MacDonald, who was there, put it, "All them fellows had was a chamber full of bullets. They wasted them. They yelled they were out of ammunition. Well, that was an admission. And the crowd got next to them. And they got the goddamnedest hammering they ever got. But Waterford is a Catholic district, and a priest there had a wonderful influence. He pleaded with them not to hurt these men. They took them and put them all in jail for protection. That night, striking miners raided and set ablaze the company stores in several Cape Breton mining communities, from Glace Bay to Sydney Mines. Riots continued through the month, in spite of the presence of a provincial police force and an estimated 2,000 Canadian troops. When Davis's funeral was held on June 14th, 5,000 mourners attended. It was the largest funeral Waterford had ever seen. Besco police officer Joseph McLeod appeared at a preliminary hearing in Sydney on charges of murder related to Davis's shooting death. But the charges were dropped as the identity of the shooter was determined to be unknown. However, it was commonly believed that Officer Harry Muldoon was the guilty party. The day after Davis was shot, Harry Muldoon and his family were relocated to Boston, Massachusetts, for their own personal safety, to begin a new life. Davis was interred in the Union Grove Cemetery at Scotchtown. This is the grave of William Davis, still standing the Gaff, almost 100 years after his death. Davis's 10th child, William Davis Jr., was born on 23rd September, 1925, and his wife Myrtle died in 1955. She is buried with him. The District 26 Union strongly supported the idea of a fund for Davis's family, and the Union declared June 11th as Davis Day. Miners vowed they would never work on June 11th, and for many years, this was the case. Although it did not become a day with pay for 43 years, the practice of not working on Davis Day spread throughout District 26. Even in my lifetime, parades, speeches, and class trips filled the day. In 2008, the province of Nova Scotia proclaimed an act respecting a Memorial Day to honor miners. In recent years, the ceremony has become an opportunity to reflect more broadly on our coal mining heritage, the hardships and sacrifice, the bravery and achievements of Nova Scotia's coal miners. The Davis Wilderness Trail was created and follows the route taken by the miners to Waterford Lake. We commemorate, so we never forget, the fierce struggle for basic human and labor rights for coal miners and their families in the first quarter of the 20th century. Davis's legacy is now the foundation of Cape Breton's coal mining culture. Miners were a close-knit bunch. Their lives depended on the actions of each other. Sticking together in a common struggle and sharing the good times is the glue that binds Nova Scotia's coal towns. Thanks for watching this special episode of Abandoned Cape Breton. Where will I go next on this beautiful island known for its stunning landscapes and rich history? Do you know of any abandoned sites you'd like to visit with me? Let me know in the comments, and hit that like and subscribe. Join me next time as we embark on a journey to uncover the mysteries hidden within Abandoned Cape Breton.
Be your slave. Remember the miners. Have a thought for the one who's working the back shift while a song's being sung. His blood keeps you